Right. Hello, everybody. It's Liam here. Today, I'm going to be walking you through Gemini versus GPT inside Clay. I've done comparisons, split tests, etc., to see which one is actually the better model in this case. And the reason you should care, anyways, is because this process is directly attributable to how many leads you generate in, let's say, a Clay table, or how good your qualifying process is. So I've run a couple of split tests. I've gone through the results, and I actually have the cost basis down because Gemini is actually cheaper than GPT by about a half, but the numbers don't actually add up. So it's very interesting in that regard. So I basically pulled a big list of advertising companies inside of Clay, and it's 200 to 500 employees. And as you can see here, we just have a big data set. And all I did was I went in and I put side by side the exact same prompt for Gemini and GPT. And just like if you want to just get the answer now and figure out which one not like to use and not to use, Gemini is better. Like literally, like you can click off now. So, but otherwise, I can go through the other bits of data that actually make this relevant as to why this actually matters. So completely up to you. So going through this, right, we basically had a couple different split tests in terms of gathering the data. So one of them was client testimonials. One of them was a summary of said site or a summary of just what they do. One of them was a company update. So seeing if there's been any kind of progression with the agency or kind of this advertising company. And then there's also, this was just a cost breakdown at the end and also said difference between the two. So going through this, we have client testimonials here. And with GPT versus Gemini, this is just the prompt I put in. It's the prompt I use pretty often across all of my clients. So let's see here. Contest, you are tasked with investigating a company's website, find evidence of successful past collaborations, visit the provided website and identify a client company for which they've done past work for, testimonials, etc., etc. You're not here for the prompt. If you were, you'd watch a different video. So we just asked it to output it in a certain format. And then, as you can see here, we have the client testimonial, and then basically kind of like what they did ish. There we go. So he's here. So 2x ROAS and 7.8% lift. And let me get to the stats right. Very interesting. Actually, before we get into that, well, actually, no, let's get into it now. Who cares? So super interesting. And what you'll notice about said results is on this side, which is the GBT, so green is GBT, there was a lot more NA. I'm telling you, there was a lot more NA. And if I scroll down, this is what the numbers look like. So 36 to 12 in terms of NA. So Gemini actually has a 3x output in terms of non-error rates, which is a bizarre thing to say. And I have a theory or a thought why. So I'll give a slight explanation. So Gemini, when going through any sort of process, seems to pull more, like it takes more steps in the process, but it's cheaper. And it's kind of like if anybody's used Nano. So let me go into it here. So this is the API pricing model. And this is really important to know when you're doing, well, like I guess any sort of pricing when you're trying to build out these tables, because at scale, it can get really, really expensive. And like this is GPT 4.1, smartest model for complex tasks. And it's obviously like, it's $2 for a million token and 8 million for an output. And obviously people are like, this is really, really fucking goddamn expensive. And to be honest, it is. You should only really use this if you have a, how do I describe this? You should only really use this if you have a small enough leads list and you're like, this is some of the highest quality shit ever, like ever. And most of the time, you don't have that sort of super high quality, like high intent list that you want to get all the information for. Like we are looking for the best models. So coming back here, when you come into the AI or the Clay, we have a couple different models set in stone. They have the general like AI models. We have the GBT models. We have the Claude models, and then we have the Gemini models. And to be completely frank, I literally have only ever used the GBT models and the Flash models. I haven't really used any of the other ones. It's not like it's never been needed. So I just decided, okay, we'll just compare these two. If you look at it here, right, there is 4.1 nano. It's too stupid. We have 4.1 mini. It's smarter than 4.0. It's basically 4.0 that does extra steps, and it's slightly more expensive by about a lot. It's not like a little bit; it's like a lot. Wait, let me see. 4.0 mini. So it's $10 output for a million tokens, and then $20. Wait, oh, this is audio. I was like, bro, that does not sound right. So it's 240 for output for a million tokens. For mini, it's 320. So what is that? 160. It's about double. It's actually exactly double. I was doing maths in my head. That's correct. So, and as you can see here, right? So I'm going to come to Gemini for a second. Gemini is obviously the Google version, as you can see here, for developers, and they have a ton of different models here, from Gemini 2.5 to Flash. Whoops, don't do that. To Flashlight and 2.5. So the 2.5s are definitely more expensive, and they're also not on the market for, how do I describe this? They're not on the Clayagent. But if we keep scrolling down, there's Gemini 2.0 Flash. And if I look over here, we have, it's 10 cents per input and output is 40 cents. 4.0 is 60 cents for output and is, I think, is 20 cents per input. Sorry, 60 cents per input. Wait, 240 per GPT 4.0 mini. So it's 240 per actually output token. Sorry. Got the pricing is way wrong. This is, so it's 40 cents and then 10 cents on this side. And here it's 60 cents. So you may be asking, Liam, the gaps are massive. It's literally like way more expensive. Why is the pricing not different at all? So if I come over here, and this is all going to make sense in a second. When I come over here, the pricing for here is about the same. There's very, very little difference between the two. And the best way of explaining this is Gemini just does more steps. It takes in more data. It's less selective. It just takes in everything and then it gives you an output afterwards. And the reason this is really important is because when you're using GBT versus Gemini, Gemini just, when it does more steps, it gathers more data, so it has a lower error rate. And that's coming to this stage here, where you have a 3x lower NA rate, which is massive. Because if you have a list of 1,000 leads, and let's say you have 300 of those are, let's say, NA, because you can't find something with GBT. If you use Gemini, you're going to get 200 of those leads back. Like, that's a massive difference. You're getting 20% of your list back from that. That was quick maths in my brain. I just did that right here. So, and as you can see here, the costs are relatively similar. And like, it genuinely is not different at all, like in terms of everything. And this is obviously over like 100 things that test. So it's not like a massive, massive difference. So coming back over here, we have, so this is obviously the client testimonial. And then here, see here. So basically we have a summary with Gemini. So we basically, I think I went a bit too far. Yeah. So we then asked GBT to summarize, GBT and Gemini to summarize like the company generally. And this was just to gauge costing. So the idea behind the first one was to see how accurate and what the error rate was. The second thing was to like gather costing and see what the, I guess, the cost was in terms of output, because all the output is put here at the end, just to kind of tally everything up, because I wanted to put it through a bit of a rigorous process. That's a nice word, rigorous. Okay, and we have company updates as well. So this is basically going through and you're just trying to identify if the company is, how do I describe this? If anything has happened in recent time. So this is just experimenting with, like, can you go off to different sources and see? Like, you're not just using the website now, you're actually going off to search Google and see X, Y, and Z. And obviously this is the goal behind this. And at the end of it, we obviously got all the costing. And just to come back, like, I'm not going to gatekeep any, or gatekeep, which is fucking stupid term, but like, I'm not going to like be like, oh, say they'll do in the video. Like, this is literally what the numbers look like. And if you gather anything from this video, just Gemini is really, really good for like longer, more tedious tasks that require a few more steps. And there's a caveat to this. So if you stayed this far, which is nearly 10 minutes now, there is a caveat. I just had food. So yeah, so there actually is a caveat to this. So when you're going through and, how do I describe this? The task you are doing requires you to reference something from the site. So this is a very, very specific example that I've seen. Let's make my face bigger for this, just so you can enjoy this. How do I think it's, oh, okay. Well, there we go. My face is bigger. Right. You can focus here. So basically, there's a caveat to this. I was running split test between GBT and Gemini, basically saying, and this is an open I use a lot for my clients, which is saw on your website, you did X for X. And obviously, this is a kind of a reference to testimonial, or another one I use is saw on your website that you helped X with Y. So if they're like, say, a finance company that did advertising, it's like, saw on your website you helped this type of person with this issue, with their marketing or spending their ads or something. I don't know. And the idea behind this is when you reference your site, it obviously increases conversions. But I also had a fallback safe to that prompt saying, if you cannot find anything, like I want you to output something, if that makes sense. Like I want you to output like, saw on your site you worked with, I don't know, finance companies in kind of this sector. Like I needed some sort of thing to be output based off the website data. And interestingly enough, OpenAI outperformed Gemini. And this is like a bizarro sequence because, and this is under my assumption here, is Gemini needs more context. So when you're asking for more limited context for like on that kind of specific site, and they're kind of going through and trying to gather data, it doesn't have enough context to make said decision. And GPT, it just looked like it had better reasoning because it actually had a lower non-applicable rate. So it was outputting more lines. Obviously, quality then comes under QA, and it's like, does that actually like matter, et cetera, et cetera. But you get the jazz, right? Where I'm going with this. GBT had outperformance in certain capabilities, and it had a lower NA rank. So the caveat is that not everything is cut and dry with these goddamn AI models. So if you do use them, make sure to use them correctly. And I would recommend to never ever use Nano because it's way too stupid. It's like handing like a 3-year-old your, I don't know, an AI robot or something, and it's like you just put the brain of a 3-year-old in the AI robot. It just doesn't, like, you get what you pay for and you're not paying a lot, so you're not getting a lot. It's just like just don't be dumb. Literally, just don't be dumb and you're okay. That's the whole kind of preface to all of this. So yeah, this is just walkthrough on kind of GPT versus Gemini. I hope you enjoyed this video, and goodbye.